Hello. Today I wanted to talk about how to fit your shoes properly. I'll talk about shoes versus sandals and then go into a little bit about dress shoes as well. First, let's take a look at shoe fit. Now with shoes, you want to be careful that your toe is never hitting the end. So some people think that you want to fit the toe right to the end, but that's not the case. So first, looking at your length, make sure there's about a thumb between the end of the shoe and the end of your toe. And that's while you're standing up. Now, not when you're sitting down, because when you stand up, your foot does slide forward a little bit or it splays out. So make sure there's enough, about a thumb, between the end of your shoe and the end of the toe. That's about ½ an inch. Make sure that you're looking at both feet when you're measuring the length. One foot can be a little bit different than the other. Another thing to keep an eye on is if your second toe is longer than your first. Because if your second toe is longer, then it can really hit the end if you're only measuring for that first toe. So in my case, I have a longer second toe, so I really want to make sure there's enough room there and make sure that that second toe has about a thumb as well. So length, easy fix, you just get a different length from the shoe company. Next, let's take a look at the width. So you want to make sure that your feet aren't bulging out on either side, and you want to make sure there's not too much space. So if you look here, see how there's a little bit of space here? So this shoe is just a little bit wide for my particular foot, but it's actually better to be a little bit too wide than too narrow. If you find a shoe that has different width options, then that's the best. To find the width, if you look on the inside of the shoe, see here that this one says 8.5 B. So that is a B width, which is about a regular width. So if you find a D, that's a wide for a woman's shoe. For a men's shoe, a D is a regular width and a 2E is a wide width. What I tend to see a lot of is when people have a wider foot or a narrower foot, they will find shoes that are either too small or too big to try and fit the width. So if you have a narrow foot, you might find a shoe that's too small and your toe's hitting the end to try and fit the width. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure you find a shoe that's a little narrower or find shoes that have width selections. You will find that it'll fit your foot a lot better. Same goes for a wider foot. Some people will go with shoe sizes that are 1, 2, 3, 4 sizes bigger than their actual foot to try and fit their width. So make sure you find a wide fitting shoe or a shoe that has wide widths available. When the shoe's too big in the length, that can cause other issues. You don't want to be tripping over your foot at all. Sometimes it just ends up getting too sloppy after you wear it and your foot can slide forward. So make sure you find a shoe that fits in the width as well. And last, you want to make sure that the depth is appropriate. So that's the amount of space that's inside of the shoe. And the way I like to measure that is by pinching the sides here. So you want to make sure that you have a little bit of material that you can pinch, but you don't want to be able to grab an entire section like this. So in this case, this one is actually way too big for me. So we want to fill up this shoe to make it fit better. So to fit the depth a little bit better, on this other shoe here, I actually added an extra piece. It's just half of an insert. Added it to the front of the shoe and underneath all of the inserts. And that helped to fill up the shoe so that there's not a lot of extra space in the front here. So when I go to tie it, it's still a little bit big, but it's much better than before. So if we tie it, see how there's a little bit of creasing there? And if I tie this one up, you can see the difference. So see how that was about 3 millimeters of material. You can see how it makes quite a bit of a difference between the two shoes. With sandals, you don't have to be as diligent with making sure there's enough room at the toes because there isn't anything for your toe to hit against. But with an exception, if you can look at both of these, I have two different inserts in them. This one here, it has my own orthotic in it, so it's nice and flush with the end. Where the other one is, it came with this insert and there's a little bit of a lip there. So with that lip, you just want to make sure that your toe isn't hitting the end. Now, as you can see here, my second toe is longer than my first, so we're mostly concerned about that second toe. Want to make sure it fits properly. So even though, if we look on this side, you have about a thumb between the end of the toe and the end of the sandal, but that second toe is almost hitting that edge. So if I walk, I can feel a little bit of that at the end. Now, if I was wearing the original insert, I'd probably go with a half a size bigger, but I'm not. I have my own insert in here because it's nice and flush. It doesn't cause any pressure from that second toe, so I can use this length. Something else I want to point out about sandals is you can change the fit of the sandal if there is a removable insert inside of it, like these ones. So on this foot here, because I have that original insert, there's actually quite a lot of space. If I try and tighten it, it has to go right to the end. And even this one, it's not fully tight on my foot, and there's a lot of strap there. So what you can do is actually remove the original, put an extra piece under it. So what I'm talking about is something like this. So if we take this sandal, remove the insert, we can put an extra piece in there. And then add this original back in. So it will sit a little higher up, so you can see some of the cork on the outside. But now, if I tighten it, it's a much better fit. You can see how it's not full, those two edges aren't touching, so there's a lot more space there for my foot. You can do the same thing with like an orthotic or an extra insert that you put in. So mine, for example, does already have an extra piece in there. And then I put this orthotic on top of it, and that will give me a much better fit inside of the shoe. So you can really adjust the way it fits in the sandal and make sure that the straps are fitting nicely. If you're having troubles adjusting straps in the way that the shoe fits, if you want your foot more forward or farther back, you can adjust the straps to make sure that it fits okay. If you don't have a back strap, just loosen these up, put the foot where you want it to be, and then tighten them exactly where you want it, and then your foot will stay in that position. Now, if you do have a back strap, do the exact same thing, tighten those straps up, but then also tighten the back strap. So you can put that a lot further back if you like, or farther forwards. So you can really adjust the fit based on how you use the straps. Let's take a look at some dress shoes next. So these are a great example of people who will go to a smaller size or a bigger size if the width or the depth doesn't fit properly. So the length actually fits great in this one. There's about a thumb between the end of the shoe and the end of the toe. But if you can see, there's a ton of room at the front of this shoe. So there's nothing wrong with the length. The width might be a little wide, but most of the problem is through the depth here. So we want to fill up the shoe to make it fit a little bit better. So I've added an extra insert to my one foot. It's about 6 millimeters, and you can probably tell the difference already. So this foot here, it's nice and snug at the front, not a lot of space through here, versus this other shoe, there's a ton of space at the front. They are the exact same shoe. I just have the right and left foot of the exact same shoe, but just adding that extra piece makes a huge difference. So with dress shoes, you really want to make sure that there isn't anything pressing along the sides here. It doesn't point too much. It fits nicely.
If you do have a strap here, like that Mary Jane style, that does help to keep your foot in, but I know a lot of people don't like that style. So if you don't have an extra strap here or around the ankle to help keep your foot in, make sure that it does fit your foot nicely. If you find shoes that are a little bit deeper at the back, that will help keep the heel in place. If you have a wider foot, finding shoes that have removable inserts so you can put whatever you want in there. A great tip to make sure that your shoes fit properly before you even try them on is to take out the original insert and step on it. So make sure your heel's near the end there. Same on this side. So from here, you want to make sure there's enough length at the toe. Make sure in the width here that your widest point of your foot is corresponding to the widest point in the shoe, and that you're not bulging out of the sides. So you want to make sure this part here isn't off the edge like this. You want the insole to be the shape of your foot as well. So those are a few ways that you can to make sure that your feet are fitting properly inside of your shoes, finding the proper fit for your shoes. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to help.